thank you all for
I'd like to hear Debbie. Thank you for coming today. It's your attendance today speaks volumes about the love we all share with Debbie. You're ready, going to be missed. We have three of us good friends here who will play a couple songs for us in honor of Debbie. We have Greg Strong, Doug Porter, and Greg Little. Thank you for sharing this, gentlemen.
Thank you, Boo. It's good to be here and see everybody and honor Eddie. Eddie loved John Prine. I picked out 3 John Prine songs. And with each song, I think it has a special meaning for me, but Debbie made a big mistake to have an open mic for me up here. It's hard to tell what's going to come out of my mouth, so bear with me. You know, we were up here, we're kind of rusty, and kind of, Doc and I especially are just used to playing around in the living room. Greg has played like on Norwegian cruise lines, and you know he's in his element. But bear with us. But you know, we were up here trying to tune our guitars, and I had my tuner set on the wrong hertz, and our guitars were in tune. And Greg picked up the harmonic, and he's like, "My gosh, it sounds like crap." So I looked at Greg, and I'm like, "You know how to tune a harmonica?" And he said, "No, we have to tune the guitar." But anyway, I had a conversation with Eddie, it's been months ago, and we were doing one of those, remember when we did this, remember when we did that. And Eddie's like, "Corn, remember when we skipped school?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I gotta tell you this story real quick. We were, I think in the 11th grade, and there were 5 of us, including me and Eddie. So we planned everything. I took Dad to work in the Rambler and dropped him off, and we all met over at Barracks. And I think David Howard had an older half-brother that lived there, and you know, you had to call into school. So we got people that worked there to call in for us, and you know, we were smart. We spread it out so nobody recognized it, that, you know, like in 5 minutes. And anyway, we go fishing. And the day's over, we come back home. I get back home, walk in, and Mom's like, how was school? I'm like, "Yeah, it was just a typical day at school." A little bit of time went by, and she said, "Well, you better go pick up your dad at the post office when it's on North Canal." So I get in the Rambler, pull up behind there where the docks are, and Dad comes out. And I can still see him waving and smiling. I'm sitting in the car. I'm like, "All right, I got this lit." He got in the car. He's like, "How was school?" I'm like, "Oh, just a typical day at school. How was the post office?" "Oh, yeah." So we get down to the first red light. My dad looked over at me and he said, "Son, you better drive slow, because when I get you home, I'm going to beat the hell out of you." So he talked about a long drive home. So I get home, and sure enough, Dad kicked me down the steps, and I looked up, I'm like, "Well, maybe it's over with." It was just getting started. And it wasn't like your normal belt whipping. I mean, he was wanting me to fight him, and I knew better, but he beat my ass. Excuse me. We're not in church, though. I'm going to say I might get a little cocky. Anyway, the dust settled, and I went up to my room on the top floor, and the telephone was on the middle floor, and my family finally went downstairs to watch TV. So I sneaked down the steps. You guys will know what I'm talking about. Some old rotary dial phones, you know, so I'm dialing to be quiet, and I follow the thing back so it won't make you know what I'm talking about. You know, all you guys who called your girlfriend late at night didn't want to wake your parents up. You did the same thing. So I call Eddie, and Eddie answers the phone. I'm like, "Beaver." He's like, "What?" I said, "You okay?" "No." "You okay?" I'm like, "Hell no." I'm like, "What happened?" He's like, "Doug, Jimmy stayed home all day and carved out a bed lamp. I walked through the front door and it was on. He beat me over the head. I was running through the house, knocking lampshades over. Jane was screaming, "Jimmy, you're going to kill him." He's like, "That's my intent." I kind of been watching Leave It to Beaver shows here lately, so I'm like, you know, I can see Beaver and me being Wally, and And Beaver asked Wally, well, he's like, golly, Wally, he even carved a hand gripping. I reckon why he did that. I'm like, golly, Beaver, I guess he didn't want to lose his grip. Anyway, gosh, the memories that we had. And it's like, I remember this, it's like, Carl, do you remember when me and you and Eddie Cole and you had farting contest in 11th grade, and it was on the total count honor system only, and we tallied everything up in Dan Dunham's class. Eddie usually won too. He was full of, sorry I told y'all. But he went on, and finally, you know, I'm looking at Eddie, he's like, remember this and remember that. I just looked at Eddie and I said, Eddie, I remember everything. I've been down that road before. I remember every tree, every single blade of grass holds a special place for me. And I remember every town and every hotel room and every song I ever sang on a guitar out of tune. I remember everything, things I can't forget. The way you turned and smiled on me on the night that we first met. And I remember every night your ocean eyes of blue. How I miss you in the morning light, like roses miss the dew. I've been down this road before, as long as I can be, careful not to let my past go sneaking up on me. Got no future in my happiness, though regrets are very few. Sometimes a little tenderness was the best that I could do. I remember everything, things I can't forget. Swimming pools of butterflies that slip right through it. And I remember every night your ocean eyes of blue. How I miss you in the morning light, like roses used to do. How I miss you in the morning light, like roses used to do. This guy's so good over here. I'll make you sound absolutely. Thank you. I don't know if a lot of you all know this, but Eddie, before my mom and dad went into assisted living, he house sat for my mom and dad. He cooked, went to the store, took them to their doctor's appointments, helped them with meds, cleaned, not up to my mom's standards. Yeah, it worked out great. I think it was a time in Eddie's life where he needed a purpose. And I needed help too. So I remember he called me one day and he's like, Doug, your dad wants to take the truck to Kroger. I'm like, well, he can't take the truck to Kroger. My dad was literally blind in one eye and couldn't see out the other. I'm like, Eddie, you can't let him drive. And he's like, Doug, I talked to him. And I said, Joe, if you get out there, you might wreck and hurt yourself, or you might, worse yet, hit somebody and kill them. My dad looked at Eddie and said, Eddie, there's people get killed on that highway every day. And I'm like, Eddie, he's kidding, wasn't he? He said, no, Doug, I think he's serious. So later that night, as we did a lot of times, Eddie and Dad would sit on the front porch, and I said, well, you just need to talk it out. He didn't let him go to the store, and told him maybe tomorrow. And I called Eddie the next morning, and I said, yeah, me and Parody were sitting on the front porch, we had a long talk. And he said, sometimes, Doug, you just have to say hello in there. We had an apartment in the city. Me and Loretta like living there. It's been years since the kids were grown, a life of their own, left us alone. John and Linda living on the lawn, and Joe was somewhere on the road. We lost Davey in the Korean War, and I still don't know what for. Don't matter anymore. You know that old trees just grow stronger, and old rivers, they grow wilder every day. Oh, people just get lonesome, waiting on someone to say, hello in there, hello. Me and Loretta, we don't talk much more. She sits and stares through the back door screen, and all the news just repeats itself like some forgotten dream that we both seen. Someday I'll go and call up. We worked together at the factory, but what could I say if he asked what's new? What what's with you? Nothing much to do. You know that old trees just grow stronger, and old rivers, they grow wilder every day. Oh, people just grow lonesome, waiting on someone to say, hello in there, hello. So if you're walking down the street sometime, station. Please don't just pass me by to stare, as if you didn't care. Say hello in there. Hello.
Thank you, Doug. Greg, thank you so much. Again, thanks everybody for coming today. Eddie and I were lifelong friends. We became friends as a result of our brothers. His brother Jimmy, the late Jimmy Ford, and my brother Jim. We ran around with the likes of Mayor Rob Rappole, Bill Brown, others to be mentioned. But Eddie and I became friends because of that, and we grew up together. You know, in this little section of South Beckley, all of us were in the Boy Scouts. As we grow older, most of us went on to something else. Eddie stuck with it, and as far as I know, he was the only one of us that attained the rank of an Eagle Scout, which is quite an accomplishment. You know, and Eddie kept that all of his life, that drive to complete things. We played sports all through school, and in this little area, we all had our little football team. Eddie lived on Cross Street. He played for the VA Vikings. Then we had the College Avenue group. They called themselves the Redskins. It was the Cool Serto group. And they filled the whole team by themselves. But they only had one set of equipment. They would trade helmets in between plays. But then we had the Granville Grizzlies, and we had some outstanding players there that went on to succeed in life. The quarterback for the Grizzlies was none other than Dr. C. Richard Daniels, radiologist. One of the ends was Dr. Phil Zanders, radiologist. I played for the Woodlawn Invaders. We had the likes of an assistant U.S. attorney as our quarterback, Mr. John Fowle. I mean, he was our star player, so. And we had the likes of Scotty McCall as an end, and Eddie Ray Hall, the late Eddie Ray Hall as an end as well. Those were good times. Eddie and I played sports all through school, and Eddie was a really talented football player. In his senior year, in August, Joel Hicks named Eddie as a starting tailback. And I'm going to tell you, that's quite an accomplishment for Eddie. Because Eddie was not the fastest, the biggest, the strongest guy, but Eddie would outwork you every day. In the weight room, on the track, on the agility drill. And you know, in practice, he lived that adage, that you play like you practice. I hated when Eddie tackled me. Because I was playing at 90% practice, and he played at 110. He'd get up and I'd fuss at him, he'd just hand me his hand, he'd lift me up, and like nothing would happen. Well, Eddie's career ended soon. In the second game, he sustained an injury that was a career-ending injury. But Eddie took that drive that he had throughout his life. When he came back from school to Beckley, he took a job, first of all, I guess with Gates Engineering with Robert and folks, and later on with Space One. And you know, Eddie is a handsome guy, had a great smile, and never met a stranger. He was very successful as a salesperson. When he came to me, he said, "Tommy, I need to supplement my income. I want you to teach me how to tend bar." I did that. And darn it, he became a better bartender than me. You know, and as I got out of it, Eddie was hired up at Foster's by Buzzy. We've all heard of the Betty Ford Clinic. Well, Eddie conducted the Eddie Ford Clinic. Monday through Friday, he was dispensing libations, counseling, and digs to everybody else. He was much loved. A fellow by the name of Don Carson came into town. Stole Eddie away from Fuzzy's. Gave Eddie a job as a hazmat instructor. You know, I saw Eddie teach thousands of men hazwalker, which are the credentials that you have to walk on a hazardous waste site. Not only that, but I saw him teach thousands of people about ocean regulations. Eddie not only was able to present it well, but he knew the material backwards and forwards. He was a great instructor. And when that fell back and he retired, Eddie moved to Charleston because he thought he had a better opportunity to better himself there. And he certainly did. during the pandemic, Eddie took a job with Workforce West Virginia and helped countless number of people wade through the red tape to get the pandemic benefits that they were due. And Eddie helped thousands and thousands of people. And I know lots of people who were so grateful for him. Well, Eddie was probably the most healthy person that I have ever known in my life. Up until the last few months of his life. He was diagnosed with AFib. But when I found out Eddie had passed, a good friend of ours,